Welcome back, Commanders. My name is Alchrist, and today I'll be briefing you on your brand new T-Doll, the babyface sniper, Nikketa. Nikketa is a sentinel rifle-wielding security officer of justice. She deals hydro damage and has a pet robot doggo named Coolidge. She relies on the doggo to counterattack enemies for her to follow up with massive damage. I will mention that in all my guides I will be referring to Confector's Index as skill points, since this is much easier to understand. Nikketa has two methods of generating skill points. Firstly, her active skill 1 K9 deployment, which has a 1-turn cooldown. She selects a tile within 9 tiles to summon a companion Coolidge there. Any enemies within 2 tiles of Coolidge will then take AoE physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and reduce 3 stability. All enemies hit will have the debuff Guilt for 2 turns. If Coolidge was already on the field, this will just teleport him to the new location. Nikketa will then gain 1 skill point. The Guilt debuff itself will increase damage taken by Nikketa or Coolidge by 5%. When Coolidge is on the field, it will inherit stats based off Nikketa, but it will not move on its own. Instead, it will counterattack enemies if they attack an ally. The description is kind of vague about the distance, but through my quick test, the enemy needs to be within 3 tiles of Coolidge. Coolidge's counter can only happen once per turn. Nikketa's second method of generating skill points is her active skill 2, Judgment Strike, which has a 1-turn cooldown. She selects one enemy within 9 tiles and deals hydro damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. She'll also apply the Guilt debuff for 2 turns, while also gaining 2 skill points and extra command, letting her act again. Nikketa's basic attack is Active Deterrence. It has a range of 9 and deals physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. Nikketa's ultimate is Righteous Verdict, which costs 3 skill points. She selects one enemy up to 9 tiles away and then deals hydro damage equal to 130% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. If the target has Guilt, she will double down on the attack and deals 2 instances of damage. This will, however, remove the Guilt debuff. While the base cost of her ultimate is 3 skill points, she will expend all of them to deal 5% extra damage for each additional skill point she had. Nikketa's passive is On-Site Enforcement. When her K9 Coolidge is on the field, Nikketa will have the Insight buff, which increases her ultimate range to 10 tiles. Before Nikketa or Coolidge uses the skill, both of them will gain 1 stack of Clue, which increases their out-of-turn attacks by 5% per stack, and this can stack up to 5 times. If their attack exploits a face weakness, they'll gain a 2nd stack. When Coolidge performs a counter attack, Nikketa will follow up with the ultimate. This won't actually cost any skill points to cast, but it will still expend all of her current skill points for the bonus damage. When deploying Nikketa onto the field, the key elements playing her is positioning her K9 Coolidge in places where he can easily perform counter attacks so that she can get free ultimate cast. She's very simple to use. When it comes to her rotation, on turn 1, use active skill 1 to summon Coolidge, and then on turn 2, use active skill 2 into ultimate. This 2-turn cycle then repeats. Again, Nikketa should be getting ultimate damage between every turn. If you have Springfield V1 that can grant shared telepathy, which increases skill point generation, her rotation doesn't change, but will help her gain extra skill points for the bonus damage. On to her pros and cons. She obviously has high synergy with the existing Hydro T-Dolls. However, she isn't all that reliant on them, as she can perform as a great standalone DPS in any team setup. She does take away some of Sabrina's utility, being able to generate tidal wave tiles with a fixed key, thus implanting Hydro weakness on enemies. And if you need to divert enemies or damage away from your dolls, you can drop Coolidge in a place for it to block enemy pathways. Then it can be resummoned every 2nd turn if it happens to die. As for her cons, she does miss out on a lot of damage if Coolidge doesn't counter, as she won't perform her free ultimates. But this is pretty niche, as most bosses don't really move out of range. Otherwise, she doesn't really have much in the ways of cons, as she does what she does really well. She doesn't even have the movement con of other Sentinel snipers, as she has a standard 5 movement on top of the 9 to 10 range on her abilities. Nikketa's best weapon is her signature, Guardian Silver Wing. It has attack boost, and its trait ignores 1 stability, ignoring 2 if she has insight, which should be almost all the time with Coolidge on the field. Its effect is Virtuous Reward, granting her and Coolidge Soak, increasing hydro damage by 10%, and her ultimate damage is increased by 15%. She can use Macchiato's Bittersweet Caramel as well. This trait ignores 10% of target's defense, while ignoring another 10% if they have a freeze debuff. While she won't benefit from the increased freeze damage from its effect, she will get increased skill damage after using out of turn attacks. She can also use the Samasek. It increases crit damage and the same stability ignore trait as the Guardian. The Samasek's effect is Keep It Up. Since Nikketa doesn't deal electric damage, you'll be mainly using this for the 10% increased phase damage. Otherwise, use any other elite weapons for its base stats. If you do not have any spare elite weapons, you can use a namesake, the VSK-94. It has the same stability ignore trait, and caution will increase ultimate damage. Or just use the M1891. Again, it has the same stability ignore trait, and increases damage against enemies that have an elemental debuff. When it comes to her attachments, she follows the DPS archetype of attack percent, attack, crit rate, and then crit damage. A reminder that the only attachment that can have the crit damage is the muzzle. When it comes to which attachment sets the farm, you should use the Phase Strike set. It increases damage by 15% if they have an elemental debuff of some kind, which she applies herself. She can use the Hydro Boost set, increasing Hydro damage by 20%, however this is more valuable if she's at V1, as her active skill 1 only does physical damage. When it comes to her fixed keys, the best ones to obtain are 201 Righteous Doll. After using basic attack or a targeted ability, she will gain 1 skill point. 403 Just Desserts. After using active skill 1, she will turn the AoE area into tideway tiles. And 203 Messenger of Justice. If the target has guilt, she will deal 2 extra stability. 603 Oppressive Air can be used if you don't need the utility of her other keys. This will grant her attack up after gaining clue for 1 turn. Fixed keys 401 and 601 are situational and are not recommended for a core build. Her common key is Defender. When she has a Hydro buff, crit rate is increased by 10%. Other common keys she can steal is Tololo's Afterglow, increasing damage when not at max skill points, or Mosin's All-Seeing Eye, increasing damage while she has Insight. Otherwise, any common key that increases attack or crit values will work. Next, we'll have a quick look at the Fortifications. At V1, her active skill 2's damage multiplier is increased to 100% of her attack, as well as granting extra action instead of extra command. This allows her to move again, while also triggering cooldowns to go down by 1. This means that with her short 1-turn cooldown abilities, this simplifies the 2-turn rotation to basically just 1, as she can just spam active skill 2 rather than alternating between active skill 1 and 2 outside of summoning or moving Coolidge. At V2, her ultimate's damage multiplier is increased to 150% of her attack, and the required skill points needed for her ultimate is now only 2, allowing more skill points to be used as bonus damage, and if the target has guilt, we'll apply monitoring to it for 1 turn. This increases damage from Coolidge's counters by 15%, as well as suffering 2 stability damage when attacking. At V3, the clue buff can now be stacked up to 10 times, and Coolidge can now counter up to twice per turn. At V4, active skill 1 now reduces 5 stability to all enemies hit, and the guilt's debuff increases damage taken from all Hydro damage by 10%. If Coolidge teleports using this skill, he now recovers 30% of his HP. At V5, the range of Coolidge's counter is increased by 2 tiles, and now has 100% of Nikketa's HP when summoned. All enemies within 5 tiles of Coolidge now has a 10% attack reduction. And at V6, for each extra skill point used, her ultimate damage is increased by 10%, and guilt is no longer removed, allowing her to essentially double attack with every ultimate cast. To finish off, we'll have a quick look at suitable teammates to field along Nikketa. Her best pairing is V1 Springfield, and she can apply shared telepathy to increase Nikketa's skill point generation. Tololo works as another Hydro DPS, as Nikketa can support with implanting Hydro weakness to enemies, as well as generate Tololo's Light Spike passive stacks. You also have Sabrina and Zhao Hui to round out the Hydro only team, but unfortunately, neither of these girls add much for Nikketa. As always, QJ pairs well with any T-Doll that can deal multiple instances of targeted damage per turn. Otherwise, Nikketa is a solid DPS for any team lineup. Here are some examples of team compositions. And that about wraps up this character briefing for Nikketa. I hope this guide helps, and if you have any other suggestions on a build of teammates, make sure to leave a comment below. Until next time, Commanders.